back. We are jumping into our third conversation this morning, and it's all about disaster risk management with Galen University. We have here with us Zain Duhaney. He is a coordinator with Galen University, and he's here to talk to us about an opportunity for persons who would like to study this program that is newly available, and it is a postgraduate diploma. Zain, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. I remember the last time we spoke to you, you had joined us virtually, so
yes.
Thank you for being here in person as well.
I appreciate it. It's a different feeling being in person.
Yes,
yes.
Yeah, we always tell guests that we prefer them in person. Those Zoom works because you really get to have that human interaction and get a better understanding of the message you're trying to bring across here. So, disaster risk management. What does Galen have to do with disaster risk management?
Well, it's a very good question you brought up. So, you know, the whole conversations that we have been having, we have 3 global agendas that have been pushed out. We're speaking about climate change, we're speaking about sustainable development, and then we're speaking about disaster risk reduction. The 3 of them are interlinked. Primarily, you only hear about the sustainable development goals and climate action.
Sure.
However, when you reduce climate risks, in turn you do reduce disaster risks. They're so interlinked that you can't speak one without speaking the other. Yeah. So this program came about as a result of that, seeing the importance, because Galen is already pushing the sustainable development agenda within our curriculum. We're already discussing climate change and making moves towards climate change through our environmental program we have. So there's one missing component to that triad that we looked at, and that is disaster risk management. This came about as a partnership with UNICEF, who have been important in terms of helping us, you know, working jointly to fulfill this domestic need. While we have programs that are funded by the OAS, there's no program tailored to the Belize context currently existing. So all those programs are just using case studies and models from other regions. However, models are good, but models are only a guide to creating that solution we need locally and nationally. And this program came about with some discussions that have started in January of this year, and thankfully we have been able to move so fast and having this product now, which is the postgraduate diploma.
Wow. So what does a program like this would look like? It's a diploma, but what are the courses that persons would be taking that would contextualize disaster risk management in a Belize lens, or through a Belize lens?
So an important part of this program is we're looking at having 5 modules and a capstone project.
Okay.
So cumulatively we're looking at 18 credit hours, and it runs for a year. This program is going to look at introduction to disaster risk management, and also a unique component of this program is the only program in the region that has a component designed for the protection of women and adolescents in disaster and emergency situations. So in line with the Conventions on the Rights of Children, CRC, which is a very widely ratified convention, we have integrated we have integrated some of those components from that convention and included them in our postgraduate diploma.
So so it's a postgraduate diploma, correct?
Yes.
Let's talk a bit about the importance of disaster risk management in the Belize context, in terms of how these lessons learned we'll be able to apply them to our current situation because we are hurricane prone, we're flood prone.
So when we look at disaster risk management, it's looking at reducing the impacts these hazards have on communities and society. So traditionally, we have been using disasters and natural disasters incorrectly. The term is truly a natural hazard. The disaster is when that hazard comes in contact with human population. And that creates the whole idea of a disaster.
And we're trying to reduce
risks. The risks associated with these hazards by being proactive, having preventative actions, and we speak a lot about the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. We're looking at all these post-2015 conventions that are aimed towards working together to, improve the world. And by extension, Belize is a part of it, So when we look at where this has come from, the Hyogo framework for action was the precursor to the Sendai framework, similar to the Millennium Development Goals was the precursor to the SDGs. And we have another important convention, which is the Paris Agreement, which deals with climate change and climate action, adaptability, and the relevant topics. But looking at how we build resiliency is key in Belize. We have heard that term floating around like AI.
A buzzword.
Resiliency, but what does that translate to on the ground? When we talk about community level resiliency, we talk about national level resiliency, subnational. Everything needs to be so interconnected, and capacity building is an important factor within this conversation. How do we build resiliency when we do not have skilled professionals to implement these conventions that we have signed on to? And the government is one of the frontline, agents or partners that deals with implementation of policy. While you have civil service organizations and international organizations complementing and assisting, the buck lies with them. So we have offered 25 scholarships for this first cohort to public servants to enroll in this program for free. So we're working with UNICEF and we're funding that cost jointly. So the first cohort is designed to target the public service and in turn do our part as part of our social corporate responsibility to help in the development of Belize. So
that's good.
No one will be paying out of pocket for this diploma here.
Well, that's kudos excellent to you guys for seeing that opportunity to bring empowerment in an area where I think we are still yet to tap into fully. You made an excellent point where disaster risk management is concerned, where we tend to use that word incorrectly, so to speak. But you mentioned that there will be 25 scholarships that will be issued to public service workers. Is that the entirety of what the cap on what we would hope to see these individuals access this diploma, or are there more spaces?
We are scalable in terms of how we design the project, but the funding is truly only geared towards these officials. However, if people want to join, they are welcome to join. And you could contact our admissions department at admissions@galen.edu.bz to find out more information. In terms of looking at comprehensive disaster risk management, we cannot eliminate the private sector. The private sector is crucial in terms of getting this done. We looked at, prior to coming to Galen, I was working at NEMO, and an important aspect that we looked at is how we bring everyone to the room. Everyone should be a part of the policies that are drafted. In terms to, we need that participatory approach to any policy design. We tend to include people after we design the policies, and that doesn't work. Looking at Fortis, for example, in the Cayo district, we have a man-made hazard, which is the dam. And that has the potential to impact a lot of lives if we don't have proper plans in place.
Yeah.
Similar, we don't look at risk only from a hydrological standpoint. We look at it from an environmental, technological. We're looking at cyber security, cyber attacks. All of this is part of the framework because that is, in sense, it can form into a disaster because it's a man-made hazard coming in contact with human population.
Yeah.
So you look at the different hazards or threats that exist. You know, the world is changing, we're digitally connected, and we're trying to move away from just speaking about dual hazards, just looking at it from a flood and hurricane standpoint.
Correct.
To include all of these different type of risks, financial risks.
Yeah.
You know, the list can go on, you know.
I've never, just to interject there, I've never thought about the hazards associated with the cyberspace. But it makes sense the way you put it, because where, let's say for example, where the ocean is concerned, the ocean in and of itself, to a great extent, isn't necessarily a hazard, but what can develop out of it. For example, a hurricane, tsunamis, those are hazards. The online space or the cyberspace in and of itself isn't necessarily a hazard, but what can develop out of it, cyber crimes, cyber attacks, these are hazards.
You know, there's an interesting movie I watched in terms of, imagine you woke up with $0 in your account.
No, I did this morning.
Cause, you know, well, myself included. So, but caused by some cyber attack to our financial institutions. How would we recover? What chaos would be caused in this country? And you have to think about worst case scenarios. What is the aim of a comprehensive disaster risk management plan? Is to reduce downtime. How quickly are we able to recover from the impacts of these hazards? You know, we did a mobile workshop once at NEMO, and we were working with the Belize Chamber of Commerce, and surprisingly, more than half of the persons in the training did not have a continuity plan. And this included financial institutions, which is kind of alarming.
Yeah.
To know that people we entrust with, you know, our finances, livelihood, or life, don't have a proper plan in place. But it goes down to the legislation. We were at the forum yesterday, the youth forum, and I was leading one of the breakout sessions, and a student proposed, why are disaster plans not mandatory when taking out a trade license? This is very innovative because that is being proactive. Indeed. That we know when we grant these businesses the license to operate, that they're able to have these plans in place, and you know, we're able to focus as a government, as a private sector, and focus our attention to areas where the resources are more needed. We have scarce resources. We cannot work everywhere.
Indeed.
And having these innovative ideas shows that youth are able to contribute to this conversation leading up to, you know, yesterday's event. Youth Forum. You know, looking at building to the International Day of Disaster Risk Reduction on the 13th of October. So this program truly is being launched at the appropriate time. We see the impacts in Florida. We see how these hazards are intensifying over the years, from not being that frequent to having Category 5 hurricanes in, you know, up north.
Yeah.
You know, hasn't happened in many
so
years.
Close to us,
Looking at also how what we traditionally know to be the peak of the hurricane season shifting a bit from that mid-September, late September period to now early October going into mid-October. So things are changing, and we have to adapt to them, correct?
Adapting is key, and it is a part of being resilient. And, you know, we have to start the conversation from an early age. You know, we look at models such as in Japan. You know, this is a part of the curriculum at schools, and this is a part of their culture. So their culture involves speaking about disaster risk, not about the disaster itself. You know, so it's having these conversations, educating people, and letting them be part of the solutions that are being proposed. And the earlier we could start these conversations, the earlier we can launch more programs and more capacity initiatives towards creating a resilient Belize. I think we will be able to recover and reduce the downtime in the event we're ever impacted with a disaster.
Yeah, I'll just say finally, as we wrap up this conversation, Mr. Duane, that we personally, in our personal lives, we think about disaster risk management from a micro level. Like, let's say, for example, if there's a imminent hurricane threatening Belize, one of the things we may do is put boards on our windows. We may put sandbags in front of our doors. While a lot of people might not think about it, that's a part of reducing the effects, the disaster effects. So that's disaster risk management that we practice in our lives. And we do it on a daily basis in almost every single thing that we do.
Coming to work is risk management. You do mitigation by, if you're riding a bike, using your helmet.
Wearing a seatbelt.
Wearing a seatbelt. Driving on the correct side of the road. So we do risk management in our daily lives without really understanding that we do it. You know, and it is good to have this formal training to better improve your understanding of this whole concept that is out there. You know, and the more people we could train, the better, because that's one more person who is able to make an impact in their community. You
said it earlier, but perhaps just final thoughts here on how climate change is intensifying these hazards that we're seeing, and then how it's even transforming the disaster risk management space.
Yeah, when you look at the whole model of climate change, you know, it creates and adds to more uncertainty. While we are using predictive models to forecast projected paths, we're using data analytics, AI, and all of these things that are out there to forecast the path that we expect these hazards to take. Climate change has really put a dent into the accuracy of data and these projections now. And this has led us to have to go back to the drawing table, you know, and truly have more contingencies in place in the event that we see a deviation from what is expected. You know, the extending of the hurricane season is one. That may be a thing that we may see come to play very soon.
And that's a question that we are asking more frequently now. I know one of the points that we even brought up was how early we saw our first hurricane. This hurricane season just
major
days
hurricane.
In.
So definitely an important conversation that we'll continue to have. Mr. Duane, I'll give you an opportunity to give us some final thoughts as we wrap up for the sake of time.
So for this diploma, I want to leave that it's open to public service members for the funding. And as part of a postgraduate diploma, you're required to have a bachelor's degree. So in any area as well, to be admitted into the program. You know, our official transcript from the university which you attended, graduated, and we recommend having a GPA of 3.0 to apply. However, if you don't have that, we are not saying you can't apply. You know, this is going to be a very competitive selection, we're sure, because a lot of people are interested in the area and the opportunities that exist through a fully funded scholarship. So we are looking for people who are committed and people who want to make an impact in this area as a main selection criteria to getting in the program, because we want that post-graduation they're able to leave the gates running.
Indeed.
And contribute to the resilient nation we want to see.
Indeed.
Excellent.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Mr. Duhene. We look forward to having more conversations with you about what's happening at Galen the next time something pops up. So don't be a stranger. Feel free to always reach out to be on set.
Thank you very much for having us.
All right.
And we take our final break, and when we come back, we'll be meeting some small business owners. So stay with us. We'll be right back.